Let's get to the bottom of MicroStrategy stocks. I will definitely show you the volatility smile. We'll also touch on 3D volatility. I'll show you a strategy. As we can see, no matter which way the stock goes, we make money. The strategy is almost break even, but I'll tell you about that later. Let's start with MicroStrategy stock. I always overlay the Bitcoin chart on this stock because MicroStrategy holds 200,000 Bitcoins on its balance sheet. Naturally, I round this figure to make it easier for us to calculate later. And as we can see, the correlation is practically 100%. There's also some recent desynchronization, but again, the stock mostly returns to its normal values. Let's stick with volatility for now, we'll come back to it later. Our volatility is very high, averaging 120%, but for some nearby strikes, it reaches 140%. This will help us build a sound position, a sound portfolio, to make money. Let's take a look at the volatility smile. As we can see, the smile is flat, meaning it doesn't increase in either direction. Yes, we have a slight increase in the nearby strikes expiring in April, May, and June. This could be due to recent news, but generally the smile doesn't increase significantly with volatility. It's directed equally in both directions. It's rare to see this, but it's also something to consider. Let's examine the historical and implied volatility to see what's happening. The historical volatility is represented by the gray line, and the implied volatility is the white line. As we can see, the white line indicates higher values than its historical counterparts, especially towards the further end, indicating higher implied volatility than historical volatility. What does this tell us? As I always say, you should aim to profit from volatility movements. You will make a profit because most traders profit from stock movements, whether the stock goes up or down. That's where you earn. But I want to shift the focus. We need to profit from volatility, from changes in volatility. Again, this can only be done through options. Let me show you the trading volume on options. We have a very large volume concentrated around the $3,800 level. We also have a significant volume from trades at the $1,600 level. These are both options. Let's look at the path of these options. It's at $1,300 with a very large volume. Therefore, let me plot this on the chart $1,300 and $1,600. These levels are very strong. We can see that the stock is roughly moving within this range from $1,300 to $1,000. This is of course also related to options. It seems that our options are expiring within the next week, which is not very good. The closer the options are to expiration, the higher the probability of increased volatility in one direction or another. Let's take a look at the 3D volatility. I remind you that this is where all the option information is concentrated for all strikes, for all expiration dates. Professionals will immediately understand and determine some strategy to build. Let's return to the strategy. As we see, we have a strategy efficiency profile. If the stock grows and, for example, reaches $2,200, we will earn $73,000 from it. If the stock starts to fall, for example, to $1,500, we will earn $45,000 from that. As we can see, no matter where the price goes, we make money on it. This is the secret of success. I always talk about this. But again, under no circumstances should you open this position. It's very dangerous. Here are sold uncovered options. If you do not know how to manage options, you will definitely lose money if you open it. This strategy requires management. You must buy options, sell options. I showed it exclusively as an example of how to competently form positions. Don't just tell stories convincingly, do this or that, but to show, for example, what this position might look like. All right, today the market is falling due to high inflation data, but in fact the MicroStrategy is growing. The same as Bitcoin. Someone may say that this is a defensive asset against inflation, including Bitcoin, and the MicroStrategy holds Bitcoin in its account. This is also a defensive asset. But actually, I do not think so. Again, the stock price will depend on Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin goes, the stock will go. It's very, very hard to predict prices. But again, that's just my opinion. Investing in this company now is very dangerous. I also want to remind you of my philosophy. I do not know where the price will go. I always say this. I say it openly as much as possible. I have no idea. Where will the price go? I don't know how to predict the price movement. But my main task and philosophy is competent position management. You have to open a strategy. You need to build a portfolio in such a way as to earn money in any case. I have already demonstrated this to you. That is, if you have learned to competently manage positions, you will definitely always earn money. So that's it. Of course, if Bitcoin rises to $100,000, I also often talk about this, then the MicroStrategy might rise to $3,000 or even to $3,800. I admit that as a possibility, but I do not believe that Bitcoin will grow to $100,000 in the near future. In my opinion, there may be some correction here. Again, what it will be like, how long it will last, it's difficult for me to say. I also remind you that the risk-reward ratio is not in favor of the investor. I'm talking about how the price purely theoretically could still rise to about 1,800, but again, the risk-reward ratio is not on the investor's side. That is precisely why I would not buy these shares right now. I do not have these shares in my portfolio at the moment, but I continue to monitor them so that I can add them at the right moment if necessary. But first and foremost, I rely not on technical analysis, not on fundamental analysis, but on the theory of probability, because it always works. I always talk about this in every video. Therefore, I fully admit that we may have a correction in Bitcoin. Also, if Bitcoin starts to fall, this company can also fall significantly. I always warn you too, that you can buy MicroStrategy shares. We have the weekend coming up, the markets will be closed, and during this time Bitcoin may start falling, for example, on Saturday and Sunday, potentially dropping by 10 to 15%. And then when the markets open, you won't even have time to sell anything. This is the most dangerous thing. Again, in my opinion, MicroStrategy moves much faster than Bitcoin, but if you want to invest in cryptocurrency, personally, in my opinion, and this is my subjective view, it is better to buy the cryptocurrency itself rather than these shares. But this is again my view, you do what you want. Yes, the potential here seems greater, but Bitcoin to me will be safer. Also, I remind you that I will be starting a new experiment on forming an account and a portfolio from scratch. That is, when I receive monetization on YouTube, absolutely all the money, I will be redirecting to a new account. I will be forming a new portfolio there, showing absolutely all positions, how I opened which stocks, buying everything. It will be as transparent as possible. So subscribe to not miss the beginning of the new experiment. Returning to MicroStrategy, in my opinion, the potential here, the price movement is oversaturated. I am saying that if Bitcoin does not continue to rally significantly, then one should not expect too much from MicroStrategy. I also assume that Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, and the stock itself may correct. Again, I'm not saying this will happen tomorrow or next week. I'm talking about the potential for movement over the next half year to a year. And again, a correction is a very, very good time to buy these stocks. They used to be worth about $100. I think no one would have declined to buy them then and sell, for example, at $2,000. So the lower this stock is, the more advantageous it is to buy it. This is again my opinion, and I adhere to that position. I also advise you to look at my previous video concerning the market. It's a very risky moment now with these stocks. I broke it down in maximum detail there, showed the strategy. Be sure to watch.